Thailand's military chief says there won't be elections there for more than 12 months. General Prayut Chan-o-cha, who overthrew the government in a coup last week, says political reform and reconciliation will take time. And he's warned people to stop protesting against the military takeover.
The military doesn't want to take over power, doesn't desire to abuse power for any kind of benefits, but the country was not able to move forward. If the military and civil servants do nothing at all, who will look after you? Who will come and help solve the problems for you when the full democratic system cannot move forward?
Vikram Nehru is a senior associate at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He joins us from Washington, D.C. Welcome to the program. What do you think of Thailand's military chief's decision not to hold elections for at least a year?
Well, I'm not surprised by it at all. The National Council for Peace and Order, which the military regime now calls itself, has set ahead of itself a very ambitious agenda. They want to try and restore economic stability. They want to reconcile the two parties that have been opposed to one another over the last 8 years. And finally, they want to amend the Constitution. So that's a very, very tall agenda. And I think they also have to realize that the longer they take, the more difficult it will become for them, because there is always the possibility of violence in the country, and that could lead to further troubles as far as they're concerned. And secondly, let's face it, the military is not particularly good at running countries, and they could potentially make mistakes. So I think it's in their interest to try and keep this time as short as possible before returning the country to democracy.
Now, unlike in previous military coups, though, there has been no promise of a swift return to democratic rule there in Thailand. Do you think the military genuinely intends to return Thailand to democracy?
I think we have to take the military at their word. The reality is that for 8 years now, Thailand has been at a political impasse. The red shirts and the yellow shirts, the two groups that have been opposed to one another, one representing the royalist network, the other representing the Pheu Thai party of Yingluck and Thaksin Shinawatra, have been at loggerheads. The economy has taken an impact. Unlike in previous such situations, this time the economy is actually in contraction. So I think both sides recognize that there had to be some intervention of some kind, and the military's intervention was something that people had really expected if there hadn't been a resolution to the political crisis. And now that it's happened, it's important that the military puts in place the right framework so that when the country is once again returned to an election and democracy, it doesn't get back into the sort of political impasse that it has experienced over the last 8 years.
Now, we've seen protests in Chiang Mai and Bangkok against the coup. Will this warning by General Prayut stop those protests, or could this coup exacerbate those divisions that are already there in Thailand?
Well, he's made it very clear that he intends to use a firm hand, and he has warned protesters against protesting. But this is exactly the sort of danger that Thailand now faces. There is news, for example, that there may be a large demonstration being organized for the weekend. And if that were to occur, then it would pose a serious threat to the National Council for Peace and Order. So these are very risky times for Thailand. I think it's important, therefore, that the government puts in place a very clear timetable for a resolution of the political problems, a clear timetable and arrangement for amending the Constitution, and that hopefully will give some comfort to both sides in this political impasse that the military is serious about resolving the political problems in Thailand.
Okay, Vikram Nehru, thank you very much for your thoughts. Vikram is a senior associate at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. Now, there are complex layers to the political landscape in Thailand, but the most obvious dividing factor is the former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra. Veronica Pedrosa went to Thaksin's hometown to find out how this military seizure of power is being received there.
Even if you don't read Thai, the posters say it all. This is a town loyal to the brother and sister who were both once Prime Ministers of Thailand. It's a personal matter for Noi, who's sold snacks here for decades and watched her customers grow up, including Thaksin and Yingluck Shinawat. She's joined by one of the leaders of the pro-Thaksin group, United Front for Democracy Against Dictatorship, part of the alliance known as the Red Shirts. Ong Ad Tantanasin was detained by the army for 5 days in the mass arrests that followed the military coup.
We have to wait and see if the army general who staged the coup can deliver what he promises on bringing people together with no colours of shirts. I wonder how he can make it happen.
There are hardly any soldiers to be seen in Chiang Mai's streets. Life in Thailand's second biggest city goes on. But scratch the surface and the nature of the political battle becomes apparent. The military here in the heartland of support for Thaksin Shinawat have so far refused to say how many people they've actually detained as part of the crackdown. Still, the military's going ahead with a seemingly contradictory campaign. They're offering basic medical services to people in so-called red villages. Nobody seems very enthusiastic. No medical notes are taken, nor follow-up offered.
As a UDD supporter, I will be watching to see what will happen in the next 3 to 6 months. We would like to see if what he actually delivers is worth the military coup.
No one but the generals now in charge knows whether scenes like this will be repeated in this city. Protests shut down, media shut down, and unknown numbers arrested for unknown reasons. Veronica Pedrosa, Al Jazeera, Chiang Mai, Thailand.
Well, the head of the organization which provides